She arrived at the base with a mix of excitement and nervousness. This was not just any job. It was a dream she had nurtured for years. Ever since she was a teenager, she had wanted to serve, to be part of something bigger than herself, something that mattered. And now finally she was here, a recruit in the military. But right from the start, she realized that the path she had chosen wouldn't be easy. When she received her assignment, it wasn't what she had secretly hoped for. She was placed in the logistics unit, the team responsible for supplies, equipment, and paperwork. While others in her class were being trained for combat roles, she was learning inventory management, supply chain coordination, and the intricate details of military operations that happened far from the front lines. At first, she tried to hide her disappointment. She told herself that every role in the military was important, that logistics was the backbone of any operation. But it was hard not to notice the teasing. Her fellow soldiers, mostly men, would make comments whenever she walked by. "Just the supply girl," they would say with a smirk. Or, "Don't get your hands dirty in battle, leave that to the real soldiers." They didn't say it outright to be cruel. Sometimes it was teasing, sometimes it was underestimating. But it stung. They had no idea how much she wanted to prove herself, how badly she wanted to show that she belonged just as much as anyone else on the base. She worked quietly, focusing on every task with precision. Every box she labeled, every form she filled, she did with care. Some soldiers noticed and some didn't. Most didn't seem to care, but she knew that even if no one recognized it yet, her skills mattered. She knew that one mistake in logistics could derail an entire mission, that missing a single piece of equipment could put lives at risk. And so, she poured herself into her work, day after day, silently building a reputation that few could see. It wasn't just the teasing from others that made her days difficult. There was also the constant inner doubt. She questioned herself almost every night. Was she truly cut out for this? Did she really have what it took to be a soldier in a world that often measured strength by who could handle the most firepower, the most dangerous assignments? She reminded herself over and over that bravery didn't always mean running into battle. Sometimes it meant being smart, being precise, and being ready to step in when the situation required it. The base itself was intimidating. Towers of crates, endless rows of trucks and warehouses that seemed to stretch forever. There was a rhythm to life here, a rhythm she had to learn quickly. Each day brought new tasks. Some were mundane, like counting inventory or checking supplies. Others were challenging, like coordinating shipments across long distances or ensuring that urgent supplies reached their destination on time. She became obsessed with efficiency, with anticipating problems before they happened. She kept notebooks filled with notes, ideas, and potential improvements. Nobody asked her to do this, but she couldn't help herself. She wanted to be better. She wanted to be noticed, not for vanity, but because she wanted to matter. Her superiors didn't pay much attention to her yet. That was frustrating, but she didn't complain. She understood that in a large organization like this, recognition often came slowly. She focused instead on gaining the trust of those around her in small ways. Double-checking the shipment schedules, volunteering to help when someone was overwhelmed, making sure that no detail was overlooked. Slowly, she started noticing little glimmers of respect from some peers. The ones who were more observant would nod in acknowledgement when she solved a tricky problem or fixed an issue that could have caused delays. These small moments became her motivation. The teasing from others continued, though. Some of the newer recruits would whisper jokes when she passed by. "She'll never be in the field," they would say. "She's stuck behind a desk forever." She could hear it, but she refused to let it break her spirit. Every day she reminded herself why she was here and why she had chosen this path. She knew that being underestimated could be turned into an advantage. If people thought she couldn't do something, that only made it easier for her to surprise them when the moment came. She also found unexpected support in quiet places. There was a senior logistics officer who occasionally glanced at her work with approval, giving her small pieces of advice. "Pay attention to details. That's what keeps soldiers alive," he would say. She soaked up every word, feeling encouraged that someone saw her potential. She realized that being a great soldier wasn't only about physical strength or combat skills. It was also about strategy, intelligence, and the ability to stay calm under pressure. Life on the base was not just work. There were moments of camaraderie that made her smile. She learned to share stories with fellow recruits during breaks, to laugh at small mistakes, and even to tease back gently when someone joked about her role. These moments reminded her that she was part of a team, even if some members didn't take her seriously yet. She felt a quiet pride in contributing in her own way, knowing that the success of operations often depended on people like her. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the base grew quiet, she stayed behind in the warehouse going over supply records. The faint hum of generators was the only sound around her. She wasn't lonely. She felt focused, almost meditative. That's when it struck her. Her role, often underestimated, was actually crucial. Every soldier depended on logistics, whether they realized it or not. Without supplies, food, weapons, and equipment, even the bravest warriors would struggle. She felt a spark of determination, a feeling that she could use this knowledge to prove herself someday. She also noticed how much she had grown since the first day. Her hands, once clumsy with paperwork, were now fast and accurate. Her mind could anticipate problems hours before they happened. She had developed a quiet confidence, a calmness in the face of chaos that others didn't yet understand. And she knew deep down that if a real challenge came, she could step up, not in the way anyone expected, but in the way that truly mattered. But for now, her skills remained mostly invisible. Her peers still teased her. Her superiors still hadn't called her out publicly. Yet, she didn't let this discourage her. She made a promise to herself that one day she would show everyone that being a logistics soldier didn't mean being powerless. Being behind the scenes didn't mean being unimportant. She would prove that intelligence, courage, and determination could make someone just as strong as anyone on the battlefield. She thought of the stories she had heard growing up. Stories of heroes who were not always the ones charging forward with guns and explosions. Some heroes had fought battles quietly using brains and strategy. Some had saved lives by thinking ahead, planning meticulously, and staying calm when others panicked. She wanted to be like that, a different kind of warrior, one who could surprise people when they underestimated her. Night after night, she stayed after hours making notes, studying manuals, and thinking through scenarios. She became obsessed with understanding every part of the operation, not just her immediate tasks. She imagined situations where quick thinking could save the day, where her work could make the difference between success and failure. This was her training, not in the gym or in the field, but in the mind, sharpening her skills in observation, planning, and foresight. Even though it was lonely sometimes, she found solace in the belief that her moment would come. Every challenge she faced, every sneer or joke was a small preparation for that day. She understood something important. True respect wasn't given. It was earned, sometimes in ways others didn't see. And she was ready to earn it quietly, patiently, but with determination that burned brighter than anyone suspected. Little did anyone know the girl who seemed to be just a logistics soldier was building something powerful inside herself, a combination of intelligence, patience, courage, and unwavering dedication. She may have been underestimated now, teased and dismissed, but she knew deep down that this was just the beginning. And when the time came, she would show everyone the warrior she truly was, the one who could change the outcome of any mission with her skill, her brain, and her courage. For now, she smiled quietly to herself as she packed away the last of the supplies for the night. Tomorrow would bring new tasks, new challenges, and new moments of doubt. But she felt ready. Every small act of precision, every piece of knowledge she gained, every sneer from her peers was sharpening her. She knew that she was more than they thought, more than they could see, and that knowledge gave her a sense of power that no one could take away. As she left the warehouse, the cool night air brushing against her face, she felt a spark of hope. One day, everyone would see. And when that day came, it wouldn't just be about proving them wrong. It would be about showing that true warriors come in many forms, and that courage and intelligence could be just as mighty as strength and weapons. The morning started like any other, with the sun rising over the military base and soldiers moving with purpose along the wide open grounds. She carried herself with quiet confidence, her mind focused on the tasks ahead. But that day would be different. She didn't know it yet, but a challenge was coming that would test her in ways she had only imagined during long nights of preparation. The base had received urgent orders. A key supply route, responsible for delivering food, medical, equipment, and ammunition to a forward position, was suddenly at risk. Heavy rain had washed out parts of the road, and communication with the field teams was inconsistent. It was the kind of situation that could quickly become a disaster if not handled carefully. Commanders held urgent meetings, trying to figure out how to reroute shipments, what trucks could be deployed, and how to keep the soldiers at the front line supplied. Most of the logistics team panicked. They were used to following routine schedules, not solving unpredictable crises. Papers flew across desks, radios buzzed constantly, and the tension in the room was almost tangible. She watched quietly at first, taking in the chaos. Others were shouting over each other, everyone offering suggestions at the same time, many of which conflicted. She felt a familiar stir of determination rise within her. This was the moment she had been preparing for in her mind. At first, no one noticed her. She could feel the familiar weight of being underestimated, the invisible barrier that made her feel like a ghost in the room. But she didn't let it bother her. She began reviewing the shipment lists, the maps, and the condition reports for the roads. Her eyes scanned every detail with precision, noticing small discrepancies that others had overlooked. Some of the trucks scheduled for the route were not road-ready. Some supplies listed as available in the warehouse didn't actually match the inventory. If the shipment went out as planned, it would be delayed, and soldiers depending on it would suffer. She took a deep breath and raised her hand cautiously. "Excuse me?" she said softly, her voice almost lost in the chaos. All eyes turned reluctantly toward her. She pointed out the discrepancies she had noticed. "These trucks can't make it through the northern route. Some equipment isn't accounted for. If we follow the current plan, the supplies won't reach the team in time." There was a brief pause. Some of the senior officers frowned. One of them muttered under his breath, "She's just logistics, what does she know?" But another officer, older and more experienced, gave her a curious glance. He motioned for her to continue. She took a steadying breath and explained her alternative plan. She had studied every road, every possible detour, and every truck's capacity. She suggested splitting the shipments, sending lighter loads along a safer secondary route while arranging for repair teams to fix the damaged vehicles. She even accounted for possible delays and weather changes. Her plan wasn't flashy, but it was precise, practical, and realistic. Some of her peers whispered to each other, clearly doubting her suggestions. "She's never even been in the field," one said quietly. "How can she possibly know?" They were thinking only in terms of experience in battle, not understanding that logistics was a different kind of battlefield. She ignored the whispers and focused on explaining the reasoning behind every step. She spoke clearly and calmly, showing that she had thought through every detail. Her confidence grew with each sentence, and she could sense the shift in attention. The officers who had initially dismissed her were listening now, some nodding, slowly. Her voice, once overlooked, was starting to carry weight. The commander finally spoke, his tone cautious. "If we follow your plan, it's risky in a different way. Are you certain it will work?" She nodded. "Yes, sir. I've checked everything. It's not perfect, but it's the best way to get the supplies through safely and on time." With some hesitation, the commander approved her plan. Orders were issued to implement her strategy immediately. She could feel a rush of adrenaline and relief. This was the first time her careful preparation had directly influenced a critical operation. But there was no time to celebrate. The execution was just beginning. Trucks began moving along the alternate route. She coordinated with drivers over the radios, giving precise instructions and adjusting plans in real time. When unexpected obstacles appeared, fallen trees, flooded areas, or mechanical issues. She stayed calm, thinking quickly and making decisions that kept the operation on track. She could feel the tension in the room ease slightly as the shipments progressed successfully. Her peers who had doubted her watched in astonishment. They had expected mistakes, delays, or confusion. Instead, they saw efficiency, coordination, and calm leadership. The whispers of disbelief turned into murmurs of respect. Some of the same people who had teased her earlier were now silently acknowledging her skill. Hours passed, and finally, the last shipment reached the forward position. Soldiers in the field sent messages confirming that everything had arrived, safely and on time. It was a small victory in the larger picture of the operation, but it was monumental for her. She had turned a situation that could have been a disaster into a success, and she had done it using only her knowledge, foresight, and calm judgment under pressure. The commander called a quick debrief. Everyone gathered in the operations room, tired but relieved. He looked directly at her, the first time he had publicly acknowledged her contribution. The shipment reached the field safely thanks to a plan proposed by someone many of us underestimated, he said. The room fell silent. All eyes turned toward her. She felt a mix of pride and embarrassment, not used to being in the spotlight. The commander continued, "We often think that only those on the front lines face real challenges, but this shows that planning, coordination, and intelligence are just as important. Today she demonstrated leadership, foresight, and courage. Well done." A wave of applause followed. She felt a warmth she had never experienced before. It wasn't just about being recognized. It was about finally being seen for her skills and her dedication. Her peers, some of whom had doubted her from the beginning, now looked at her differently. Some offered small nods of respect. Others, more boldly, came up to congratulate her. Even in the quiet moments afterward, she could still hear some skeptical voices. Not everyone had been convinced, and some still whispered that it was luck rather than skill. But she didn't mind. She knew the truth, and that was enough for her. She had proven to herself, and to those who mattered, that she could handle pressure, think clearly, and make decisions that save time, resources, and potentially lives. That day, something inside her shifted. She realized that being underestimated was no longer a burden. It was an opportunity. Every sneer, every joke, every doubt cast her way could be turned into motivation. She understood that sometimes the world only respects visible actions, but the real strength often lies in preparation, intelligence, and the courage to step forward when no one expects it. As the day ended and the base quieted down, she stayed behind, reviewing what had happened and thinking about how to improve for next time. The crisis had been successfully managed, but she knew that more challenges would come. She also understood that her role, often overlooked, could make a bigger difference than anyone realized. Her peers, once dismissive, were beginning to see her in a new light. Some whispered quietly among themselves, trying to process how the logistics soldier had solved a problem that others had struggled with for hours. Some nodded at her as they passed, an unspoken acknowledgement of her skill. It wasn't fame or glory, but it was the first sign of respect. She felt a quiet pride as she walked back to her quarters. Today had been more than just a successful operation. It had been proof that she could rise above doubt and teasing, that preparation, intelligence, and determination could allow her to shine even when the world underestimated her. She had survived the storm of criticism, fear, and skepticism, and she had come out stronger. That night as she lay in bed, she thought about the future. If today was any indication, she was ready for more. She was no longer just the girl who handled paperwork and supplies. She was a problem solver, a strategist, and a leader. She was quietly becoming a warrior in her own right, someone who could face challenges with calm intelligence and unwavering determination. The day had started like any other, but it ended with her stepping into a new reality. She had shown herself, and others, that strength came in many forms, and that courage could be quiet, precise, and strategic. She had begun to prove that being underestimated was not a weakness. It was a hidden advantage waiting to be used. And so, with a sense of quiet satisfaction, she drifted off to sleep. knowing that her journey was only beginning, and that the world would soon see the warrior she truly was. The days that followed the supply operation felt different for her. Something had shifted. Her peers no longer ignored her, and her superiors started glancing at her work with interest. But she didn't let it get to her head. She knew that real challenges were still ahead, and recognition was not a reason to become complacent. She stayed focused, knowing that one mistake could erase the small respect she had begun to earn. It was during a routine morning briefing that the next challenge appeared. The military base had received word of a critical assignment, a live exercise simulating a high-pressure battlefield scenario. The goal was to test how quickly and efficiently the troops could respond to a sudden threat. While most soldiers were preparing for frontline engagement, she was called to assist with logistics coordination. Her responsibility: ensure that every piece of equipment, ammunition, and medical supply reached the right team at exactly the right time. At first, some of the soldiers smirked when they saw her name on the assignment. "She's just logistics," one of them whispered. "She won't last a day under pressure." She ignored them. Experience had taught her that underestimation was a tool, one she could use to her advantage. If everyone expected her to fail, then succeeding would surprise them even more. The exercise began smoothly enough, with units moving to designated positions and communications running normally. But within a few hours, complications arose. The simulated enemy forces had attacked unexpectedly in a different sector than planned, and the base had to react fast. Some trucks carrying ammunition were delayed due to blocked roads, and medical supplies needed by the field teams were at risk of not reaching their destination on time. Chaos erupted. Orders were shouted, radios buzzed, and confusion rippled through the base. Some of her colleagues panicked, unsure of how to adapt quickly. That's when she stepped forward. She calmly reviewed the situation, mapping out the most urgent needs and the fastest routes available. She analyzed which vehicles could be rerouted, which supplies could be combined, and which areas needed immediate attention. Her suggestions were precise and logical. She didn't speak loudly or demand authority. She simply explained the plan step by step. "If we send these trucks along the southern path, we can reach the front lines in half the time," she said. "We'll need to redistribute supplies so that each team gets exactly what they need. I've checked the inventory and everything matches. The repair crew can follow the northern route to fix the broken vehicles while keeping essential deliveries moving." Some of the more skeptical officers frowned. They weren't used to a logistics soldier taking such initiative in a high-pressure scenario. One muttered, "She's never led a real operation before." But another, the senior commander, listened intently. He could see that her plan was thorough, realistic, and most importantly, executable. After a moment's consideration, he gave the order to implement it. Suddenly, the responsibility fell on her shoulders. She coordinated drivers, relayed messages to field teams, and monitored each shipment's progress in real time. She was like a conductor directing a complex orchestra. Every truck, every delivery, every soldier had to move in perfect harmony. Mistakes could mean delays, and delays could mean failure. But she stayed calm. Her mind worked faster than anyone else's in the room, anticipating obstacles before they appeared and finding solutions on the spot. Hours passed in a blur. She managed roadblocks, mechanical failures, and sudden changes in the simulated scenario. Each time a problem arose, she stayed calm, analyzing the situation and issuing clear, actionable instructions. Slowly but surely, the shipments reached the field units, and the simulated teams began to regain their positions. The tension in the operations room eased slightly, replaced by quiet admiration. Her peers who had doubted her were watching in stunned silence, realizing that her calm, methodical approach was keeping the exercise from collapsing entirely. By late afternoon, the exercise reached its critical stage. The simulated enemy forces had launched a final intense attack, and the field teams were now heavily dependent on timely supply and support. She worked tirelessly, adjusting plans on the fly, communicating updates, and ensuring that the right resources reached the right people at the exact moment they were needed. Her focus never wavered, even as exhaustion threatened to set in. When the exercise finally ended, the results were clear. Every team had performed better than expected, and the success of the operation was largely credited to efficient logistics. The senior commander addressed the room, and for the first time he singled her out. Today our operation succeeded because of someone whose contributions often go unseen. She anticipated problems, devised solutions, and executed a plan under pressure that kept the entire exercise on track. This is the mark of a true leader and a skilled strategist. The room erupted in applause. For the first time, she felt the full weight of recognition, and it was overwhelming. Soldiers who had previously dismissed her now approached to offer congratulations. "I didn't think you'd manage it," one said, shaking his head in disbelief. "I underestimated you," admitted another. She smiled, a mix of relief and pride washing over her. She didn't gloat. She simply felt validated. Her hard work, patience, and preparation had paid off in a moment where it truly mattered. Even with the praise, she remained grounded. She knew this was just a step, not the end. There would always be more challenges, more situations where quick thinking and strategic planning were necessary. But today had proven something vital, to herself and to those around her. She had the ability to lead, to make critical decisions, and to succeed even when others doubted her. As the day wound down, she took a quiet moment to reflect. The exercise had tested her in every way: her knowledge, her nerves, and her ability to adapt. She realized that her role, often overlooked, was just as vital as anyone on the front lines. She began to understand the true power of intelligence, preparation, and calm leadership. While strength and bravery were often visible in battle, the ability to think clearly and solve problems under pressure was just as heroic. The respect she had earned that day felt different from recognition in the past. It wasn't about being noticed for a single task. It was about proving her value consistently in high-stakes situations. For the first time, she felt truly part of the team, not just as a logistics soldier, but as a strategist whose decisions could influence the outcome of any operation. That night, as she reviewed the exercise and made notes for future improvements, she felt a quiet satisfaction. She had handled the pressure, anticipated every problem she could foresee, and adapted to unexpected challenges. She had survived the scrutiny and doubt of her peers and superiors, and in doing so, had proven her capability beyond question. She also realized something deeper. Her journey wasn't just about her personal growth or recognition. It was about understanding that every role, no matter how overlooked, could make a difference. Every act of preparation, intelligence, and quiet courage mattered. Soldiers on the front lines relied on her work just as much as her own life depended on theirs. She was learning the true meaning of teamwork, responsibility, and leadership. Even as she prepared for the next day, she knew that more challenges would come, more situations that would test her skills, patience, and courage. But the experience of today gave her confidence. She no longer doubted her abilities. She knew that when pressure mounted, she could remain calm, think critically, and lead with precision. That realization became a quiet source of strength, one that no teasing, doubt, or skepticism could shake. And so, as the base settled into the quiet of the night, she took a moment to breathe and reflect. She wasn't just a logistics soldier anymore. She was someone capable of making crucial decisions under pressure, someone whose skills could shape the success of operations, and someone who had begun to earn the respect she had always hoped. For her, today had been more than an exercise. It had been a proving ground, a test of character, intellect, and resilience. She had faced doubt, confusion, and pressure, and she had come out stronger, more confident, and more determined than ever before. Tomorrow would bring new tasks, new obstacles, and new opportunities to prove herself. But she knew deep down that no matter what happened, she now had the experience, skill, and confidence to rise to any challenge. And in that quiet understanding, she felt a sense of purpose that went beyond recognition or applause. She was ready for whatever lay ahead, knowing that the warrior inside her was growing stronger with every test. The days after the exercise brought a new atmosphere to the base. There was a quiet buzz in the air, a change she could feel. People who had once overlooked her were now watching with curiosity, some with respect, and others with a hint of wariness. She moved through the base with her usual focus, refusing to let the attention distract her. She had learned long ago that recognition could be fleeting if it wasn't backed by consistent action and careful preparation. Her commander, the one who had publicly acknowledged her during the exercise, started to call on her more frequently. He asked for her input on planning future operations, on organizing supplies for upcoming drills, and on optimizing the workflow for her unit. It was a subtle shift, but a significant one. For the first time, she realized that her voice carried weight, that her skills were being noticed beyond just the logistics team. Despite this, some of her peers still struggled to accept her abilities. A few whispered behind her back, "She got lucky this time," or "The commander just wanted to make an example." She overheard these remarks sometimes, but instead of anger or frustration, she felt motivation. She knew the truth. Her preparation, focus, and calm under pressure had created the results. Not luck. She allowed their doubts to fuel her determination, rather than weigh her down. One morning, the commander called her to a private meeting. She entered the office cautiously, unsure of what to expect. The room smelled faintly of coffee and paper, a quiet contrast to the noise and chaos outside. The commander gestured for her to sit. "I want to acknowledge your work again," he began. "You've shown exceptional skill in planning and coordination. Your approach during the last exercise was precise and effective. But it's not just about efficiency. It's about leadership. You have a natural ability to take charge in situations others find overwhelming. That's rare." She felt a flush of pride, tempered by her natural modesty. She had worked hard for this, but hearing it from someone in authority made the recognition tangible. "Thank you, sir," she replied. "I've learned a lot from observing how the team reacts under pressure, and I just try to stay focused." The commander nodded. "And that focus is exactly why I want you to take on more responsibility. We're planning a joint exercise with multiple units next week. I want you to lead the logistics coordination. You'll have a team under your supervision. It's a bigger responsibility than you've had so far, but I'm confident you can handle it." She felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. Leading a team was a step beyond anything she had done before, but deep down, she knew she was ready. She had spent countless hours preparing for moments like this, anticipating challenges, learning how to manage resources, and understanding how to make quick, precise decisions. She accepted the assignment without hesitation. Over the next few days, she immersed herself in preparation. She met with team members, reviewed every detail of the plan, and identified potential risks. She spent long hours studying maps, tracking inventory, and coordinating schedules. Her dedication was meticulous. She wanted everything to be perfect, not for recognition, but because she understood that the success of the operation depended on precision. As she worked, she noticed a shift in the attitude of her peers. Those who had once teased her now asked for advice or quietly observed her methods, trying to learn from her approach. Some offered assistance willingly, while others still hesitated, unsure of how to adjust to this new dynamic. She remained patient, focusing on the work rather than the opinions of others. Her calm determination became an example in itself, demonstrating that leadership was more about action than words. The day of the joint exercise arrived. The base was buzzing with activity. Soldiers moved quickly, vehicles were loaded, and radios crackled with updates. She felt a surge of energy as she stepped into her role as team leader. Her team looked to her for guidance, and she met their eyes with steady confidence. She gave instructions clearly, anticipating problems before they arose and adjusting plans in real time. The exercise quickly escalated. Simulated attacks and unexpected obstacles tested the coordination of every unit. Trucks carrying critical supplies encountered blocked roads, communication lines faltered, and some teams reported simulated injuries requiring immediate medical support. The complexity of the situation could have caused panic, but she stayed calm. Her mind worked quickly, analyzing each problem, calculating the best solution, and delegating tasks efficiently. Her team responded to her guidance with surprising speed. The quiet respect she had earned translated into action. Soldiers followed her instructions without hesitation, knowing that her decisions were reliable and well thought out. Every adjustment she made kept the operation on track, ensuring that supplies reached the right teams at the right time. Even the most skeptical observers couldn't deny the effectiveness of her leadership. Hours passed in a blur of activity. She coordinated multiple routes, monitored communications, and solved unforeseen problems with precision. At one point, a truck carrying medical supplies broke down in a critical location. Without panicking, she redirected another vehicle, arranged a quick repair team, and ensured that the supplies still reached the field. Her calmness under pressure inspired confidence in her team, and the operation continued without significant disruption. By the end of the exercise, the results were clear. The joint operation had been executed efficiently, with minimal errors and delays. The commanders debriefed the teams, praising the performance of the units. When they spoke about logistics, they highlighted her leadership specifically. This operation succeeded in large part because of her coordination, foresight, and calm under pressure, one officer said. She led her team effectively, anticipating problems and finding solutions before they became critical. This is the level of leadership we need in every operation. The acknowledgement was different this time. It wasn't a small nod or private comment. It was public recognition in front of the entire unit. Her peers, once dismissive, now regarded her with respect. Some came forward to shake her hand while others offered quiet words of appreciation. She felt a sense of fulfillment that went beyond personal pride. It was the satisfaction of knowing that her work had made a real difference. Even as the applause and congratulations settled, she remained humble. She knew that one successful operation didn't define her. Leadership, she realized, was about consistency, patience, and the ability to remain focused under pressure. She had proven herself once, but the journey to becoming a truly respected leader was ongoing. She continued to refine her skills, study strategies, and anticipate challenges, knowing that the next situation could be even more demanding. That evening, as she walked across the base under the fading sunlight, she reflected on the journey that had brought her here. From the early days of being underestimated and teased, to quietly honing her skills and stepping up when the moment demanded it, she had grown in ways she hadn't fully appreciated. The respect she had earned wasn't just from her superiors, it was from herself, from knowing that she could face challenges with intelligence, courage, and composure. She also noticed the change in her peers. Some had become genuinely supportive, asking for guidance and learning from her methods. Others still struggled to accept her authority fully, but even they had begun to see her differently. She realized that leadership wasn't about being liked by everyone. It was about being effective, reliable, and fair. She had learned to focus on the impact she could make rather than the opinions of those who doubted her. The base settled into quiet as night fell, but her mind remained active. She reviewed the events of the day, noting areas for improvement and considering potential challenges for future operations. She knew that the world of logistics and coordination was complex, unpredictable, and often overlooked, but it was also essential. Every successful operation relied on careful planning, decisive action, and the ability to think ahead. She had proven that these qualities were not just theoretical, they could be applied in high-pressure situations to achieve real results. As she prepared for bed, she felt a sense of quiet pride. Today had been more than just another exercise. It had been a demonstration of her abilities, a confirmation that the skills she had developed were valuable and respected. She had earned recognition not through luck or chance, but through preparation, focus, and the courage to step forward when others hesitated, and yet she knew her journey was far from over. Challenges would continue to come, each one testing her intelligence, patience, and resolve. But she also knew that she was ready. The confidence she had gained, the respect she had earned, and the skills she had developed had equipped her to face whatever lay ahead. For the first time, she truly felt like a leader, not just someone who followed orders or completed tasks, but someone who could guide others, make critical decisions under pressure, and influence the outcome of complex situations. The journey that had begun with teasing and underestimation had transformed into one of respect, capability, and emerging authority. And as she lay down that night, she reflected on the truth she had discovered, that real warriors are not defined solely by the battles they fight on the front lines, but also by the decisions they make, the people they inspire, and the calm, intelligent actions that create success even in the face. The weeks following the joint exercise were filled with a quiet shift at the base. It wasn't dramatic, but it was noticeable. Soldiers who had once dismissed her as just logistics now treated her differently. There were nods of respect, subtle gestures of acknowledgement, and even some who came forward to ask for her advice on planning and strategy. The change wasn't immediate, but it was real, and she could feel it. Despite the growing recognition, she didn't let it make her complacent. She understood that respect earned through one or two successful operations could fade if she stopped being diligent. She continued to focus on her work, studying plans, anticipating problems, and refining processes. Her attention to detail and her calm approach under pressure had become her signature, and she knew that true leadership meant consistently delivering results, no matter how difficult the task. One morning, the commander called her into his office again. The room was quiet, the usual hum of activity outside replaced by the calm of anticipation. "We have an upcoming real-world deployment," he said. "It's a critical mission and we need someone to lead the logistics coordination. I want you to take charge." Her heart raced, not from fear, but from the weight of responsibility. This was more than an exercise, this was real, and the stakes were higher than ever. Lives could be affected by every decision she made, but she felt ready. She had prepared for this moment through countless hours of training, problem-solving, and quiet observation. She nodded, accepting the responsibility without hesitation. Over the next few days, she threw herself into preparation. She met with the teams involved, reviewed every inventory list, double-checked transportation routes, and developed contingency plans for every possible scenario she could imagine. She also made sure to communicate clearly with her team, ensuring that everyone understood their role and the importance of precision in every task. She emphasized teamwork, reminding them that their success depended on trust, coordination, and focus. As the deployment day arrived, tension was high across the base. The mission involved transporting essential supplies to a forward position, with a route that had potential obstacles and unpredictable conditions. Soldiers moved quickly, equipment was loaded efficiently, and communication lines were active. She took her place at the center of the operations, monitoring progress, giving instructions, and adjusting plans in real time. The mission quickly presented challenges. A sudden storm made some roads impassable, vehicles broke down unexpectedly, and communication with a unit in the field became unreliable. Panic could have spread easily, but she stayed calm. She analyzed each problem carefully, considering the best solution without hesitation. She rerouted vehicles, redistributed supplies, and coordinated repair crews, all while keeping the team informed and focused. Her calmness had a contagious effect. Soldiers who had been tense and uncertain began to follow her lead, trusting her decisions and acting with confidence. Even those who had once doubted her abilities saw firsthand the value of her approach. She wasn't just giving orders. She was guiding, supporting, and inspiring her team to perform at their best. Hours passed, and one by one, the shipments reached their intended destinations. Supplies were delivered on time, equipment was accounted for, and no critical errors occurred. The mission, which had the potential to be chaotic, unfolded smoothly under her guidance. Her team worked efficiently, and the field units received everything they needed to operate effectively. When the mission concluded, the commanders gathered the personnel for a debriefing. They highlighted the importance of every role in the operation, and when they spoke about logistics, they singled her out. This deployment succeeded because of exceptional planning, coordination, and leadership, one officer said. She anticipated challenges, made critical decisions under pressure, and ensured the mission's success. This is a model of excellence. For every member of the military, The room erupted in applause. She felt a wave of emotions, pride, relief, and fulfillment. But she remained composed. The recognition was meaningful, not for vanity, but because it reflected the real impact of her efforts. Soldiers who had once laughed at her or dismissed her contributions now approached her with admiration, shaking her hand and expressing gratitude. It was a moment of validation for everything she had worked toward. Even so, she remained humble. She understood that success wasn't the result of one person alone. It was the teamwork, the trust, and the collective effort that made the mission possible. She acknowledged her team's contributions, praising their dedication, focus, and willingness to follow her guidance. She knew that true leadership wasn't just about giving orders. It was about inspiring others, building trust, and ensuring that everyone could perform at their best. The experience also changed her perspective on the value of her role. She had once felt overlooked, underestimated, and dismissed. But now she understood that every role, no matter how hidden or behind the scenes, could have a profound impact. Supplies, planning, and coordination might not seem heroic on the surface, but they were essential. Without them, even the bravest soldiers on the front lines could struggle. She had discovered that her contributions were not less important. They were critical. In the days that followed, she noticed further changes at the base. Her peers began seeking her advice regularly, asking for guidance on planning, problem-solving, and prioritizing tasks. Even senior officers started including her in strategic discussions. She had earned a place at the table, not because she demanded it, but because she had consistently proven her skill, reliability, and intelligence. She also became a mentor to newer recruits, particularly those in logistics or support roles. She encouraged them to embrace their work with pride, to understand that even behind-the-scenes roles could make a difference, and to stay patient and focused even when underestimated. She shared her experiences, teaching them how to anticipate challenges, communicate clearly, and remain calm under pressure. Her guidance helped others gain confidence, and she found fulfillment in seeing them grow and succeed. Despite the recognition and growing responsibility, she never lost sight of why she had joined the military in the first place. She remembered the excitement of arriving at the base, the dreams of contributing to something meaningful, and the quiet determination that had carried her through teasing, doubt, and skepticism. That sense of purpose remained her driving force, reminding her that her work mattered not for fame, but for the lives and missions that depended on it. One evening, as she walked through the quiet base under a sky filled with stars, she reflected on her journey. From the early days of being underestimated to proving herself during exercises, to leading a real mission successfully, she had grown in ways she hadn't anticipated. She had learned that true strength came not just from physical ability or courage in the field, but from intelligence, preparation, and the ability to inspire others. She understood now that being a warrior didn't always mean standing on the front lines with weapons. It could mean thinking critically, making quick decisions under pressure, and ensuring that others had what they needed to succeed. She had become a leader, not just because of her skills, but because of her calmness, reliability, and dedication. She had shown that true warriors could be found in every corner of the military, in roles that often went unnoticed but were indispensable. As she prepared for bed that night, she felt a quiet sense of accomplishment. She had faced doubt, challenges, and high-pressure situations, and had emerged stronger, more confident, and respected. Her journey had been long and difficult, but it had led to growth, recognition, and a deeper understanding of leadership. She knew that more challenges would come, but she was ready. She had proven to herself and others that intelligence, courage, and dedication could shape outcomes, earn respect, and inspire those around her. In that quiet moment, she allowed herself a small smile. She thought about the soldiers she had helped, the team that had trusted her, and the commanders who had recognized her contributions. She realized that her story was not just about proving herself. It was about showing that determination, skill, and patience could overcome doubt, and that every role, no matter how overlooked, had the potential to make a real difference. Her journey had started with being underestimated, with teasing and doubt, and it had led her to a place of respect, recognition, and fulfillment. She had shown that true warriors are not always the ones in the spotlight. They are the ones who prepare, plan, and lead with intelligence, courage, and unwavering dedication. She had become one of those warriors, quietly shaping outcomes, inspiring others and proving that strength comes in many forms. And as she drifted off to sleep, she knew that this was only the beginning. There would always be new challenges, new obstacles, and new opportunities to lead. But she was ready. She had discovered the warrior within herself, the one who could face any challenge, earn respect, and make a lasting impact. And that knowledge, that quiet confidence, was the greatest victory of all.